Ed Worley says, cheers. He's the first one on today. Restream.io. That's Julia. That's you, Julia. Yeah. Christopher Gillingham. Bonjour. Bonjour, Tom and Julia. Vive la France and their America's Cup endeavors. Yes, we'll talk about that, Christopher Gillingham, and your wife Jane in Leamington. You'll see that there on the list, down there a bit in the show notes for today. John Emmett, Training to Win, is on. Hi, John. Ted Ryman down in Cape Town. Yeah, we've got quite a full show today. Jonathan Frank down in Galveston, Texas. And we have Mark Michelson standing by with a phone link to his home and office in Idaho. He's going to tell us about this latest storm that's headed toward us here in NorCal. Mary Jude Szymanski has contributed several things to the show today. Thank you, Mary Jude in Philadelphia. Robert Fry watching from Auckland, the esteemed father of the equally or more esteemed even Leonard Takahashi. Gordon Smith in Denmark. John Lamberts Van Buren in Holland. Jody's up early in Wanji outside of Sydney as we count down the last 5 seconds to our first show of 2023. Welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome to show number 580. I'm your host, Tom Eaman, of course, and with me, as usual, is my co-host, the Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, our coordinating producer, and many other things. Julie, I trust you had a good New Year's Eve?
Quiet.
A quiet one?
Quiet, but good.
And then the rain the next day. We got flooded here at the Beach Street Yacht Club.
I know. Hard to see water in the streets of San Francisco.
Well, we have some pictures in a moment.
Yeah.
That picture doesn't look very good. That one's better. Welcome. Julie and I were talking in the pre-show whether we should do this for another 40 shows and wrap it up at 600, or whether we should go to our 6-year anniversary in June or keep going. We'll probably keep going, but, it's fun to think about finally retiring, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, we'll talk about that later, but thanks to all of you, the many, many comments over the New Year's. We really appreciate them very much as we get into the pre-start. Still using this, the Yacht Thorson from the Royal Yacht Club of Victoria in Australia, down near Alistair Murray's hometown and home club in Melbourne. Welcome to him. We had fun. I hope you got a chance to see Friday's show. We taped it Thursday night, and we put on our gold.
Yes.
It wasn't quite matching gold. This is Meg's gold scarf that I found here in the closet in the studio at Beach Street Yacht Club, and Julia got all dolled up. We had some champagne. It was a lot of fun. And thanks to all of you who watched the show. I was able to watch the show while I was driving up near in the Delta to a home, dear friends of ours, and it was good fun, just having 3 or 4 days off. We abandoned Julia here at the Beach Street Yacht Club. I know. But she was being looked after. Thank goodness. Who else is on here? Oh, lots of people. Peter Taylor. I mentioned Jody and Wanji. He's on down in Oz. Monica Diaz in Spain. Peter, say hi to Sandy for us. Welcome, Monica. James Frederick Bland. So here we are. We're at it again. Break out the high water trousers. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yes.
That was fun on Friday, Julia. Thanks. Good. Yeah. We'll have to do that again.
Yeah.
Now, you notice that here in the back, I still have the...
poinsettias.
Now, how do you pronounce that?
Poinsettias.
Some people say poinsettia.
I know.
Is it correct to say poinsettia or poinsettia?
It depends on who you ask.
Well, what is correct? There's a show from Friday, and people said, well, you should get rid of it now because the holidays are over. But I leave Christmas decorations up till...
the 6th of January.
The 12th day of Christmas, which is, of course, you're right, the 6th day. So that's why our poinsettias, most people in the States say poinsettia, don't they?
Yeah.
But is that correct?
I don't know. Both are considered acceptable.
Who cares? Yeah, James Frederick Bland agrees. Not until 6 January. Good. Thank you, James. David James across the bay saying Happy New Year. Nice to have a brief respite from the deluge. Yeah, we're going to talk about that with Mark Michelson in just a sec. But more on all of that. Let me also say that on New Year's Eve, we watched my alma mater, Michigan, get beaten close game by Texas Corinthian. This is in the Final Four of our National Collegiate Football Championship, the finals of which are next Monday night. And Georgia barely got by Ohio State, and they will face TCU. So our friends in Fort Worth, the big sailing town of Fort Worth, Eagle Mountain Lake, Fort Worth Boat Club, they're very happy that their team, TCU, beat my team and are going through to the finals. In where is that game? It's in L.A., right? Doesn't matter. We watched, as did all of you, on New Year's Eve after that game and New Year's night celebrations. This starts, Happy New Year, John Sangmeister, who's on his way, I think, driving back from visiting his mom in Colorado back to SoCal. But we always think of the New Year starting, Julia, in, you know where that is? First time zone of a major city, capital city, west of the International Date Line.
Yeah, Auckland.
Well done. That's Auckland. That's the Sky Tower, and I've spent a couple New Year's Eves, maybe more than a couple. Mm-hmm. Sangmeister talking about Texas Christian. What did I say? Didn't I say Texas Christian?
No, you Corinthian.
Corinthian. I'm talking about yacht clubs. The Texas Corinthian. Yeah, Texas Christian University.
Yes.
And Hamish Ross is on here now. Speaking of Auckland, 12th night, also known as Epiphany Eve, is a Christian festival, and the last night of the 12 days of Christmas, marking the upcoming of the Epiphany. Different traditions mark the date of the 12th night as either 5 or 6 January, depending upon whether the counting begins on Christmas Day or the 26th of December. If Hamish typed all that out, Julia, just now, that's pretty impressive.
Yes, indeed.
Or was it a cut and paste?
Who knows?
There is New Year's Eve, New Year's celebrations in Auckland, the first capital city west of the date line. And then, of course, the fabulous fireworks
in Sydney, and that's always just spectacular.
I had one New Year's Eve there as well. Mm-hmm. Ken Saban's on. Hi, Ken. From Toledo, Ohio. And, of course, you recognize that.
Yes.
The Arc de Triomphe in Paris, as we work our way west. I like to watch all these. You can do that now on the internet, not just on television. And, of course, that is Times Square in New York City. And speaking of Hamish Ross, this was a photo. I don't think he took this photo, but this is a photo I found on his Facebook page.
That's
I thought
gorgeous.
That was gorgeous, and a good way of, assuming that's a sunrise, a good way to ring in the New Year 2023. Thanks, Hamish, for publishing that on your Facebook page. That's where I found it. Cool stuff. Mm-hmm. So a quick look around the world. I woke up New Year's Day to this image and a couple others from the prodigal daughter, Meg Eamon, who is engaged happily to her boyfriend, Aaron. This was an engagement, apparently New Year's Eve at San Diego Yacht Club on E-Dock, which is where they met a couple of years ago, and Aaron proposed to Meg, and they'd been up here, Julia.
Yeah, right.
Over Thanksgiving, and we all talked about whether they were going to get married or not. He didn't exactly. Everybody asked him, "Did Aaron come ask for your permission to marry your?" This is 2022. You don't have to do that, do you?
No.
But he did come up. We all had a lot of fun, and he made a great impression, didn't he?
Absolutely. I love the two of them together. I mean, they just glow. They
do. So Bravo Zulu Meg, thanks to all of you for your wonderful comments. I posted a picture on my Facebook page. And I've had several, I think, 100 comments by now. Many of you know Meg. She helped start the channel, helped start Sailing Illustrated, the website, and so on. So Bravo Zulu Meg and Aaron, we'll look forward to the details. That same day, the heavens opened here in Northern California and beyond. The so-called atmospheric river flooded NorCal. And let me go to Mark Michelson, who is standing by via phone. Mark, can you hear us okay?
I can, Tom. Happy New Year to you and everyone else, and huge congratulations to Meg and Aaron on their engagement. Very exciting.
Thank you, kind sir. Tell us about what happened here to Northern California and beyond over the first and into the second, and what's going to happen tomorrow and Thursday.
Well, if you liked what you got a few days ago, you're going to love what's coming tomorrow. Got a solid low pressure system building in the North Pacific. Zonal flow is set up, which basically means the systems move due west to due east. There's not a lot of wiggle room in between, and they come marching right in San Francisco's front door, and anywhere between 4 and 10 inches will fall over the next 36 hours beginning tomorrow morning. southerly flow will kick in. The mountains will do their thing, squeezing the moisture out, and the city will once again overflow their sewer lines.
Oh, dear. Well, speaking of which, Mark, you can't see the pictures because you're on by phone, not by Skype. He's up at his home in his office in Idaho, having moved from SoCal wisely up to Idaho, where the taxes are lower and the kids are playing football without worrying about coronavirus. Mark, I'm showing a picture of Marina Boulevard on New Year's Day. This is the street that runs right along the marina here in San Francisco. You can see the yacht, the boats, the masts in the background. It's kind of looking over toward Golden Gate Yacht Club. St. Francis is off to the left of this picture, kind of out of frame, but the whole street is flooded. And now, again, this was New Year's Day, the day that we had 9.5 inches of rain. It was a tenth, I think, short of the all-time record. This is a shot looking from the marina back toward the houses that line. These are nice homes along Marina Boulevard. Julia, do you recognize that salmon-colored house?
Yes.
That's our dear friend Darlene's house, senior serious member at St. Francis. You can see the water is up a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet up against the garage. It pushed the garage door off the hinges, and it flooded the basement, the bottom floor rather, and the garage. And I guess you can see the firemen rescuing whoever that is in a white Mercedes who was stupid enough to try to drive through the flood on Marina Boulevard.
Yeah.
And now I have a quick video of what the garage here at the Beach Street Yacht Club looked like. We even got up through the drains, Mark, as you mentioned. It was only about ankle deep and then fairly quickly receded as the water flowed out of the storm drains / sewage drains into the bay. God knows what it did to the quality of the water in the bay.
Yeah.
That's the Beach Street Yacht Club garage. Julia, are we going to have to get your skiff out of the top of the garage?
Well, we're preparing for it.
Are we? I hope not.
I mean, we've been preparing for this day for a long time.
Yeah, well, the chances of you and or I getting into that, first of all, me lowering it down out of the garage. I know it's on pulleys and stuff.
Right.
And we keep talking about it. Peter Taylor and several others said, you're going to have to get Julia's boat down out of the rafters
I know.
of the garage. But
the other thing is it's been up there for 30 years, and it's going to have to sit in water for quite a while before it's...
Well, it's glass, isn't it? Is it wood?
No, it's wood.
Oh, it's wood? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh,
Yeah.
my God. Well, forget about that. So, Mark, I'm going back to the photos. I got a lady in front of the map saying, here comes the next big storm. And, Mark, the Weather Service, just before we went to air, just before you and I talked by phone, shot of the Golden Gate Bridge with a runner there. This is from a few days ago. But the headline today, about an hour and a half ago, thanks, Mary Jude, for sending the link that you sent. San Francisco is about to be hit with a brutal storm, the headline says, so severe that a meteorologist says it's one of the most impactful he's ever seen. National Weather Service's Bay Area office. This is just, Julia, this is not the morning news. This came in just before we went live.
Right.
National Weather Service Bay Area office issued a frank and dire warning to citizens in a statement saying the storm, which is currently forecast to begin peaking Tuesday night, tonight, and tomorrow, Wednesday morning, could bring about flooding and the loss of life. To put it simply, this is a quote, put it simply, this will be one of the most impactful systems on a widespread scale that this meteorologist has seen in a long time. The warning read, quote, the impacts will include widespread flooding, roads washing out, hillsides collapsing, trees down, basement of the Beach Street Yacht Club flooding. No, it didn't say that. The garage, rather. Widespread power outages, immediate disruption to commerce, and worst of all, likely loss of human life. This is truly a brutal storm system that we are looking at and needs to be taken seriously. Mark, it goes on, and then I'll come back to you. A flood watch has been issued for the entire Bay Area, as you said a minute ago, from 4 a.m. tomorrow, Wednesday, through 4 p.m. Thursday, with some areas expected to get, as you said, Mark, up to 10 inches of rain. Wind gusts are expected to hit 50 miles per hour, equivalent to a moderate tropical storm. Those are expected to peak between Wednesday afternoon and midnight. Marcus, what saith you?
Well, not that they're wrong, but they got to sell commercials. You know,
is that clickbait, or is that largely accurate, or somewhere in between?
Yeah, it's somewhere in between. I mean, the reality is San Francisco's seen many a serious winter storm. This probably ranks around the upper middle, 50 to 60. Yeah, it gets you in the storm warning range, but most of that's going to be reserved for Northern California and the Oregon coast. I think 30 to 50 in the big gusts for San Francisco is likely, but that's nothing you haven't seen before. What's it in August or early September for big boat series?
Yeah.
28 knots, so windy, yes. Lots of rain, yes. The real problem I see is that the ground's already hyper saturated from the last storm. We're going to have lots more rain with this one. Even some wind is going to take down trees, and with that come power lines. And if the flooding is significant enough, it gets into electrical transformers and whatnot. And those electrical powered cars better get recharged today, because you may not be able to escape the deluge tomorrow unless you pre-charge the dang thing. So, take it seriously. If you can't see down the road because it's filled with water, don't take a chance. Turn around. Don't drive through flooded water. So sweep you away if there's any current at all.
James Frederick Bland down in Austin, Texas, saying exactly. Normal winter weather on the upside. Morris Stevens, who's used to this kind of weather up in Halifax in Nova Scotia, saying good afternoon. Fog machine across the bay here saying these guys are selling doom, but yes, it will be a big storm with very strong southerly wind. He's saying, is this true, Mark, in your estimation, hurricane force off Baja California?
I haven't looked at that part of the world. I was really focused on central California, your part, and where my son lives in Southern California. It's going to be wet. It's going to be windy. I haven't looked down at Cabo to see if it looks like tremendous isobars down there, but I suppose it's possible.
Well, one last comment or two here. Clark Chapin is saying, who's our one of our FOSI here, one of our super FOSI, he's saying the effect on water quality depends on whether there is a common storm, sanitary, sewer system, or whether they're separated. And Mark, as you probably know, San Francisco is one of the few towns in the country, cities of any size in the country, that has a common storm drain and sewage drain. So what happens is that when the water floods the system, not only does the water come up through our garage floor, through the drains and up through the sewers. There were pictures in San Francisco on Monday.
Yeah, we
of the geysers 12 feet tall of Shiza.
Right.
Not just water, but shitty water. Now our for some reason our garage, when I got back here yesterday, was not stinky at all. It must have been largely just water coming up through the drain, but not a good system, Mark.
No, efficient as long as it's not raining.
Yeah, I like Chapin's comment. On the other hand, gas-powered cars can't get fueled if the power is out at the gas station.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
fill up your tank for sure. Hey, and just took a cursory look at Cabo, 9 to 16 knots. That's 9 to 16 knots. So no, at least in the near term, it doesn't look very exciting down the Mexican coast.
Mark Michelson, our esteemed weather guru, he was one of the first, if not the first guests on this show ever back in June of 2017. We had maybe it was July for the storm that hit that, I guess 2017, Chicago Mac, was it? I think you were on. And a longtime friend of ours up in Idaho now, living up there in God's country. Are you enjoying Idaho?
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. All 4 seasons. The life pace is a little bit slower, which as I get longer in the tooth is appreciated.
And the taxes are a lot lower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. Well, Stingray up in Seattle is saying now they call us a lot of different things today. We're floating illustrated, not sailing illustrated. Mark Michelson in Idaho, our weather guru, thank you for updating us. Give me a text if anything changes, if you think it's going to get worse or better, but you think it's nothing out of the super ordinary, but it's going to be a big one nonetheless.
Going to be a good storm, which is nice weather to me. And then the bad news really is that you've got a whole parade of storms behind this one. Most are less intense than this, but nonetheless, lots more water headed your way. Okay, well, stay safe, enjoy your winter, and hope to see you down here sometime sooner than later.
Yes. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks. Mark Michelson up in Idaho, our longtime friend and weather guru. Gordon Smith is saying, great hearing from Mark, another expert who is always informing. And by the way, he's like like Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrvin, he's always right, too.
I was about to say that. He's
Right?
always right. Yeah.
He's been right on, spot on. Clark Chapin saying, as the farmers would say, gonna rain like a tall. Oh, Clark. Julia, get your finger ready. And I'll get that sound ready. Yeah. As the farmers would say, gonna rain like a tall cow pissing on a flat rock. Only some guy in Michigan would say that.
Gosh.
Julia, do you know what day it is today?
Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, January 3rd. Here's your first and only clue. You know what that is? In the show notes, I said, this is a day for tossers. You know what a toss? You know what the Commonwealth, what the Brits and the Kiwis, and a tosser is somebody who's, we might say, is a wanker, is just an idiot. You recognize that?
It looks like
Come on.
taffy or something.
Close. Wozniak, Stingray. No, get him to pick the bowl game. Yeah, Tom Pace, Commodore, Pensacola Yacht Club. Luca Devotia, 60 is today his birthday. I texted with Luca this morning. He didn't say. I'm looking at the comments here, but we're still trying to figure out what. Yes, James Frederick Bland gets it. It's National Fruitcake Toss Day.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Fog Machine got it. Apple Fritter, Stingray. No, not quite. I didn't know this was such a day, but I'll tell you what. I hate fruitcake. I've always hated fruitcake, and anyone who gave me one, I tossed it, let it harden up, and used it as a doorstop or a small boat anchor or something.
I know.
But today is apparently National Fruitcake Toss Day, celebrated annually on January 3rd. The National Fruitcake Toss Day gives you the perfect opportunity to toss away your old fruitcakes and make space for the fresh things. With the holiday over, gather up all your leftover fruitcakes and toss them as far as many as you can. David James saying, nobody likes fruitcakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stingray, I saw that Apple was born. They formed Apple, that is Wozniak and Jobs, on this day in 82. This day also was, if you did this day in history, Julia, you know this day in history today, January 3rd, before the war, before Russia invaded Ukraine, was the highest the Dow ever achieved. It was the highest high point in the Dow, in the history of the Dow. So it's been downhill since then. Not so, what today, it's only down 10 points right now. I'm looking at my monitor.
Hold on.
Back to fruitcake. Does anybody like fruitcake? Jonathan Frank saying, can I toss my fruitcake brother-in-law?
Oh, yes.
That's good. That's good. Anybody else? Anybody who likes, does anyone like fruitcake?
I'm sure somebody does.
Do you?
No. Have I ever had a good one? The answer is yes.
What? Is it because it was sweet? Because the fruit was few and far between?
Uh-oh,
hang on. Pedro Foiling Sailor. I love fruitcake. My mother made the best one. I bet your mom can too, Tom. I don't know if my mother did. Did Pedro, did my mother call you or text you? She thinks so highly of you. She was going to text you. She told me on New Year's Day, our New Year's Day, your day after. Mary Longpree likes it, and she makes it. Or she says, I do like fruitcake when made well.
yes, I think that's okay. But usually we get them late and they get dried out and then they get awful.
Yeah, but if you get them wrapped in paper and you undo it and you try to have one piece of it, you try to heat it in the microwave, that doesn't help. Put butter on it, that doesn't help. They're hopeless. That's what I think. David James, there's only one fruitcake in the world and it just gets passed around. Ted Ryman, I love it. Jack Sangmeister, son of one of the three sons of John Sangmeister, have to get the good ones from Texas. Is that true? J. Frederick Bland doesn't talk about good Texas fruitcake, nor does Jonathan Frank, both Texans on our show. Apfel, Monica Diaz spelling apple like the Germans do. Apfel strudel. Well, that's different. I love apfel strudel. Strudel. Pedro, Foiling Sailor, Peter Stevenson. We do communicate regularly, but I can't give away any secrets about talking to your mother. It's a secure line. Fog Machine saying, yeah, I've had good fruitcake. The secret is way too much rum. Maybe that's what our fruitcakes
I think that's probably right. Yeah, they get to be a rum cake.
Yeah, Ed Worley is agreeing. Just make the fruitcake into rum cake. Well, that's an idea.
Yeah.
Rum stolen is rum stolen. is excellent, however. Love my fruitcake, lots of rum. Richard Trevorman, everybody's got a comment on fruitcake. James Frederick Bland, well, if there is a good fruitcake, of course it comes from Texas. I also love Christmas pudding, which is full of fruit. And Ryman in Cape Town.
Yes.
The Republic of South Africa. Okay, at last, any more? One last comment. Anybody? Before we close our fruitcake section, Julia.
Yes.
Okay, no more comments. There it is. David James, or just have the rum without the fruitcake. There's a suggestion.
Yes.
I like that. National Fruitcake Toss Day. Every year on January 3rd. Who would have known?
I'll mark it on my calendar.
You will?
Yes.
Do we have any fruitcakes that we were given that we need to toss?
No.
I have one. I'm gonna toss it in the trash, not outside. Would the birds want it? I toss it in the backyard.
Oh, sure they would.
Maybe I'll toss it here in the backyard at the Beach Street Yacht Club, right out through these windows and across the little porch here.
Yeah.
And into the backyard.
They'll have a feast.
Okay, National Fruitcake Day. Now, I just want to thank, also, this came from Mary Jude, and I didn't know whether to run this because I thought some people might think it was sexist, but then I'm not sure that's a woman or a man.
Yeah.
This wasn't the January sale, S-A-L-E, I had in mind.
I love that. I just love that. It was my very favorite.
I did too. Is this a ceiling? Sure what? Well, I don't know what that comment means from John Sangmeister. So I like that so much. I made it the theme of today's show. Happy New Year. Welcome to 2023. Is this the January SALE that you had in mind? But welcome to our show. Thanks for joining us. Show number 580, 20 more to 600. And as usual, we like to have a little bit of a, did you hear the cannon?
Yep.
That is the start from this year's Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race, the CYCA's signature event. And we're going to have some more about that after we hear from John Emmett, our esteemed Olympic coach in the Coach's Corner as usual. And John checks in with his first video and report of 2023.
Hi Tom, Julia and all the Fozy. Welcome to the Grapham Grand Prix first event for, well, at least for me, of 2023.
Safe that you have, or there are lockers in the cafe which take a pound coin and you get it back afterwards. There's a pasta dish served in the cafe as soon as you come ashore. The prize giving will be in the bar as soon as possible.
There are actually over 100 boats at the Grapham Grand Prix. This is just a very small part of the fleet you see here. I'm launching with the slow fleet. In fact, I should probably get a wriggle on, but I was going to talk briefly about smart goals. A good smart goal is very specific. So a bad goal would be I want to go faster. A good goal would be I want to go faster upwind. A very good goal will be I want to go faster upwind in flat water and light winds, and so on. It's really hard for me not to go off topic here when we think about goals and the wider topic. For example, you look at Russia, you know, if the goal is to conquer Ukraine and it's not going to happen, how will that stop? Maybe there's concern that if it's seen Russia loses the war, then Putin gets replaced. Who knows? Or the situation with China and COVID. I think the goal here, very specific goal, they don't want to lose face. And you know, therefore they're hiding the numbers. But I should probably get back to sailing, because my goal ought to be to go and get on the water as quickly as I can, so I can go sailing, because I haven't actually been sailing myself for weeks and weeks. So I'll go and put on a wetsuit and I'll try and take you for a bit more of a walk and talk later. Right, that's 3 races done and dusted. I'm fresh off the water. Well, you might be able to tell I'm not not quite fresh off the water. I won the most important race, which was to get into the showers quick, something I wouldn't normally do, but my boat's quite happy in these light wind conditions. And from experience, I know what it can be like in events of over 100 boats if you're one of the last people in the showers. Grapham, fantastic club, but obviously there's only so much hot water. In fact, if you look carefully in the background, you can probably see some boats are still racing. So my goal, and I think it's pretty clear now, is I need to be fitter. Going to try and make it a little bit more specific. Aerobic fitness, very important. I was wearing my heart rate monitor, and that's something I obviously need to work on. And also my core strength, because I can feel the fatigue in my lower back rather than my lower tummy. So yeah, lots to think about, nice specific goals. And I'm going to get the boat all packed up, and then I've probably got the opportunity to take you for a quick walk around and see some of the other classes. Right, time to get a wiggle on. Finally, time for walk and a talk, all packed up, as you can see in the background, and very fortunate to be one of the first to do so. Graffham is such a large venue. If I took you around it all, it would be incredibly long walk and talk, probably too much for anyone. But I'll try and show you some of the venue. I remember coming here back in the day with Ben Ainsley and that as a youth squad when we did the winter training out of these lakes, actually staying at the Graffham Residential Centre, which is right next door. Most people are up in the car park. I was very lucky to be able to park so close to Slipway. We have the club here on the right. This is a multi-class event which is sponsored by Selden, very well known and respected mask manufacturer, and these sponsorships make a huge difference. So just walking along now, and I realise there's absolutely no way I can show you the whole of the club, because this would take over the entire show. I mean, there's just so many boats here, and it's a fantastic venue. We actually have team racing in here with the universities, and I remember coming here when I was at Loughborough University to race against Cambridge, because we're in the Midlands. So all these people have been able to park really close to their boats, and we're just going to walk down one of these slipways. So I think this is slipway 5. I think there must be about 10 slipways. Oh, just going to go and say hello to somebody. That probably proves my point very nicely, why it's nice to do these multi-class events. I actually bumped into an Ilka friend who's actually sailing a different class of boats. We had 3 fleets here, the slow, medium and fast. No surprise that the Ilkas were in the slow. But yeah, it's one of the few events where you get to meet, you know, all the other sailing people from sailing classes, some of who, you know, we grew up with you know, when we were doing the junior class program before people go and get another one. In case you wonder what the background noise, this is Shrimp Alley. Don't be too scared. I don't know if you can see that. But we have killer shrimp here in Graffham, but apparently they're so small you can't see them. But they don't do the other lakes much good, so we try and keep them here and don't let them jump on boats and trolleys and trailers and get anywhere else in the country. So yeah, the killer shrimp alley. So it just means that everybody who's going to freshwater venues will give the boat a good rinse off afterwards. But actually, I think it's quite nice to have high pressure hoses to get all the mud off, because January, it's pretty muddy this time of year. Right, so this is Clubhouse. Time for me to grab something to eat and a beer, and probably join for the prize giving. So in the end, really worthy winners in the RS 2000, and that was Simon and Katie Horsfield, is actually a married couple, and yeah, safely back down in Weymouth after quite a long day. But Graffham, fantastic place, really pleased to go there, and brought back lots of very good memories.
Now, that's not the first time we've seen John's mum,
yes,
as the Brits would say. Well, it was nice to see her again. Happy New Year, Marilyn Emmett, John's mum. And John sent that video up, and I couldn't remember her name, and I texted him and I said, "Hey, you didn't introduce your mom on this video.
Yeah.
What a crouton! This is a family show. You should. I want my mother and love her." And
yeah.
And the problem is he's on the run. He's doing this. You could see he's got edited several videos together, and then he does it, and he forgot to put in something. But that's his beloved mother, Marilyn Emmett. Nice to see her on the show again, looking quite well.
Indeed.
And I don't know, you can say the same thing about John with his beard. God, he hasn't shaved him. Everybody's commenting about that. But what another lovely report. I want to see this place, Grafton.
Yeah, I've never even heard about it.
I've heard of it, but I've got to, I was going to punch it in on one of these other computers and have a look, but I didn't have time. So Rob Sternstein, he, back on fruitcakes, he said, but we had a fruitcake for our wedding cake in Sydney 36 years ago.
Yes.
Gordon Smith saying, yeah, unshaved. Yeah, unshaved isn't the word. Jonathan Frank wanting to know if a fruitcake, maybe if it's old enough, can be used as a life preserver. You want to hang on to one or two in the Bay Area, it sounds like, yes.
Yes.
Challenger Trimaran, such an amazing boat. Hi, John. Monica Diaz is saying, anybody coming to Alicante next week? And we're going to talk about that next week. Is the Saturday the 15th is the start of the Ocean Race. Only 5 AMOCAs and 6 VO65. We're going to talk about that right at the end of the show, and then we will preview that either Friday, probably not this Friday, but probably next week. Won't we, Julia?
Yes.
And that is the start of the Ocean Race, much pared down from previous editions. So yes, Monica, I don't know that anybody's going to be there. I'm not. Julia's not, but maybe some others on here will be. John, I wouldn't be surprised if Andrew Pindar is there. Replying to Monica Diaz, Haya, was a long day. Tried to film the whole thing. Yep. Does John look suspiciously full of fruitcake? Stingrays. Stingray. Gordon's, everybody's making comments about John's. Ironically, the last time I sailed was at the Grapham. Oh, it's Grapham, not Grafton. Grapham Water Sailing Club for the Inlands last year. I could have left the boat there. I need to pull up a map. And John, let's do a little. Let's do a little, just a vignette, something about Grapham Sail. That looks like an amazing sailing
it's huge.
set. With,
yeah.
With lots of boats.
Yes, absolutely.
John Emmett back and forth with Gordon Smith, polo shirts. Yeah, it's fairly warm. There's the Finn, J. Frederick Bland. The only boat he likes maybe more than the Finn, besides his Pelican, his new Pelican, which if you haven't seen the story I posted on I think I posted on my Facebook page as well as the SI Facebook page. There's a really nice article from a magazine about James Bland's construction, his backyard construction job on the Pelican. We're going to get him to talk about it on here in due course. But he, in addition to liking the Finn, he's a big fan of the OK Dinghy, as are a number of others of you. They're back and forth. I'm not going to read all these comments. Mom says, hi, Tom. Thank you, John Emmett. Give your mom a big hug for us, right, Julia?
Indeed, both of us.
And Julie Aaron's checking in from warm but rainy Cleveland. It's 60 degrees. Well, it's that time of year when the temp goes up and down. John, give her a big hug. Thanks, Marilyn Emmett. Nice to have you on our show, the first show of 2023. And that is John Emmett Sailing. His regular submission, Get to the Front of the Fleet. I'm liking his theme music.
Yes.
He's never said if he liked it. Maybe he doesn't like it. Because he hasn't said he likes it.
Well,
you need to go. You're the coordinating producer. You need to have a little offline discussion with John and ask him.
I'll do that.
Ask him if he likes his theme music, which we've been using.
Yeah.
Now let's go back to the Sydney Hobart. That's such a popular event. Bravo Zulu to everybody concerned, from the CYCA, Rolex on down through all the sailors and the club in Hobart. We've been telling you that Andu Comanche won line honors in the 77th edition. Marking a triumphant return for that Super Maxi, the 100-foot. I think it's the fourth time that they've won in one under one owner or another. The 100-foot yacht crossed the River Derwent finish line there in Hobart just before 1 a.m. local time last Wednesday, with a time of 1 day, 11 hours and 56 minutes. So just short of a day and a half. Not quite the record, but an amazing performance nonetheless. Mm-hmm. Now, and he's always sailed with Waxy, but our longtime friend, dear friend, Ian Murray became, in the last couple of years, when Waxy Wild Oats 11 didn't sail because of COVID, and they were, I think, not too amused about having been disqualified or having been penalized in the 2019 race. So, or was it, no, so earlier than that, 2017 race, I can't remember. But remember when they got penalized for the incident in the harbor, Sydney Harbor, before they got outside the heads, and they got an hour knocked off, added to their time. So in that incident, Ian Murray switched over and has been sailing with Comanche since, I think. He's the sailing master, co-helm, and so on. Here's an interview with him that Sky News did. It's a little longish, longer than we normally play, but it's so good, and you don't often get the big fella in a long-winded interview. And you see actually his dry sense of humor, Ian Murray's terrific dry sense of humor, come out in this video. Enjoy.
Pre-race favourite Ando Comanche has taken line honours in the 77th Sydney Hobart Yacht Race. The 100-foot yacht arrived in Constitution Dock just before 1 a.m. in a time of 1 day, 11 hours, 56 minutes and 48 seconds. It's the fourth line honours win for the boat, which came within 3 hours of beating its own race record set in 2017. Fellow Supermaxis Law Connect and Blackjack finished second and third respectively. Hamilton Island Wild Oats was fourth. Joining us live now is sailing master and helm on Ando Comanche, Ian Murray. Ian, congratulations. Great to speak with you. How are you feeling?
Look, obviously we're very tired. You know, a race that's that long is sort of quite intense and you don't get too much sleep. So, and a lot of sail changes, a lot of tactical, a lot of mental sort of stress and breakdown. But, you know, great result. We're here and we can catch up with sleep later. Sleep deprivation is really all part of yacht racing.
Absolutely. How tough was it out there? How was the Bass Strait?
Look, the Bass Strait was actually very kind to us this year, and as we speak, you know, here 12 hours after we came across Bass Strait, or a bit more, it would be pretty blowy out there now. The seas would have whipped up from when we came across, but we had good breeze, but the sea hadn't built up yet, so we were very fortunate to get across when we did, which you know, helped our fast run home.
What was it like when you first saw land in Tasmania?
I couldn't actually see Tasmania. You know, it was covered
dark.
in fog when we arrived, which is it was foggy and dark and very unusual. You know, it fog in Sydney the morning we left, and we had fog when it came down to meet us in Hobart. So nothing short of snow would have been something quite different to what we normally get. It's rather unusual weather, really.
Right. I was going to ask, you've jumped ship from Wild Oats where you were part of the boat's 9 wins. This race must have been such a different experience.
Yes, this is a very different boat for a start, but this is a very different campaign. It's the first campaign of John Winnings in his own right as the Ando Comanche team, and to put this team together out of 24 crew that have come from all around the world in different parts of Sydney, youth, experienced people, Spaniards, French, Irishmen, Australians, Kiwis. It's been a very sort of great process to put all that together over the last 6 months, and very different to the crew on Wild Oats that have been together for 20 odd years, and so it's just been a very different experience. Both of them are great, but this one is a bit more playful, I would say.
Okay, look, I know you've got to catch up on sleep, but surely there are some celebrations planned. Do you have anything coming up today?
Oh, well, the crew went straight from the ceremony and stuff into the mandatory Customs House Hotel to start their celebratory refreshments. And I dare say some of them are still there, and as the other boats are starting to come in now, that the herd will build up and press on down there. So pretty wild and woolly down here now, and it'll be an interesting day and lots of tall stories coming out as the day comes on.
Ian Murray, congratulations. Thanks so much for your time today. Enjoy the celebrations.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
It's just, you don't get to hear him in an interview situation, especially an extended interview. Somebody I've known personally for as many of you have, for a long, long time.
He's looking great.
He is looking great, and he is got that great sense of humor. You know him, you knew him well here in 2013, got to know him during the Cup and spent some time. And yeah, I thought David James, his use of the word playful, he said, yeah, the Waxy guys have been together for years, and it was a little more playful to put together a group like this. And one of the comments he made, in one or another interview, was he said, when you put a group together like this, yeah, of course you're putting the group together to win. And as Monica said, he mentioned they got a couple Spaniards and French and so on. It's quite an international group.
Right.
But moreover, he said, we put a group together to have fun. And I think that was consistent with his use of the word playful. If you're not having fun, what's the point?
Right.
And I thought that was really a great point.
And he has enough experience to know how terribly important that is.
Well, exactly. And you think of all the boats that we've sailed on and I've raced on.
Yeah.
And I said before on the show, I'm never sure if you're having fun because you're doing well or if you're doing well because you're having fun. And it's probably circular and it's a little both. But yeah, Stingray, Ian Murray still has the size of the jaw, the size of a boulder, and still good charisma. Yeah, he's just dry, low key. He doesn't drink. He's not a big party boy, but he's a great guy to go out and have dinner with and just shoot the shiza. Winning is the most fun, though, Jonathan Frank says. Indeed. Speaking of winning, the overall winner, as we've been telling you, was Celestial. And here's yet another video from Rolex, from the CYCA, about them and their winning ways.
Wild, grueling, rewarding. The 77th Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race has had more than one twist in its tail, with crews calling on their deepest resources in this captivating edition. Spectators lined the dock in Hobart, eagerly awaiting each arrival. On the course, conditions tested the fleet's resilience every step of the way. While the faster entries mostly enjoyed fast downwind sailing, the mid and smaller boats have faced multiple changes in wind strength and direction. An enthralling battle developed among a group of 4 50-footers, with only minutes separating them on the water. On the morning of the third day, they entered the Derwent together, to be met by a fearsome headwind. With every second counting, the yachts pressed on, and while Celestial was the last to cross the line, the time posted by Sam Haynes' crew put them into the lead by 15 minutes. With plenty of boats still in contention, it would be a nervous 30-hour wait, especially after the heartbreak of 2021, when a rule infringement relegated Celestial from first to second.
I mean, I would have been quite happy to walk away from the sport at that stage, but I, talked to my crew and how they felt, and we all put it together that we're just going to come back and try again and keep on going for it and keep trying to win the trophy and also to keep competing in the sport of yachting.
In a dramatic change of weather, yachts still on the east coast of Tasmania faced draining headwinds, followed by light winds once in the Derwent. The twist would leave these crews unable to better the corrected time set by the Celestial team, which had done enough to secure an emotional and well-deserved victory.
To win the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race is an absolute life-changing event for me. It vindicates the boat's ability and our ability as a team, and I'm elated, but I'm also emotional.
I don't know about you, but I think it's one of the best sailing videos I've ever seen.
Oh, yes, I was going to say great film. Yeah.
Just full stop. Just fabulous video. Bravo Zulu Rolex CYCA. And Stingray saying, the drone footage in the Rolex videos is always so stunning. Well, helicopter footage too, and you've got some of the world's top photographers out there. Monica Diaz saying, congrats to small boats too. Yeah, David James, I've been on some boats that won but were miserable. There's a lot of people on here not making comments. I want to welcome, though, Gerhard Kelter. Welcome to you, Skip Morehouse. These are people that we don't always see. Rod Hag, Matt Suzuki is in Bretagne in France. Thought I saw Bill Shore on here, one of my longtime friends from Ida Lewis Yacht Club, Newport, Rhode Island, former head of our Olympic program, multiple Lightning class world champion, Pan Am medalist, and great sailor, offshore and inshore. Orlando Montalvan, a long time, Orlando. Thank you for joining. Jay Rendell, of course. So Monica D, as we mentioned here, DeYoung, Bill Shore. I said Luca, Craig. So lots of people on here who are, as the kids say in social media, are lurking. They're watching but not commenting. You're always welcome to lurk or watch or comment either way. Now this photo, this is Celestial, and there is a long video that I'm not going to use today, but I may in future, talking about these triple-headed, it's really quad-headed rigs with the kite and then 3 jibs inside of it, the staysail and 2 other jibs. And this was, of course, in the Northeaster coming down from Sydney. This was the rig that a lot of the teams used right actually outside the heads. They were pretty quickly onto at least the big boats. So we'll talk about that at some point. And yes, Rod Hag is saying hello from the Queen Elizabeth out on the Tasman Sea. Interesting. Jonathan Frank agreeing, outstanding quality, describes the whole event. Yes, indeed. Yeah. And so I just love this picture.
Yes.
I think I posted it. We'll get somebody to talk about this. That, you know, you can't use this on very many apparent wind angle, but when you're broad reaching, that's the de rigueur. But bravo Zulu to them, to Celestial. You were going to say, Julia?
I just wonder how they arrived at that configuration, because
it's trial and error. I mean, it's like anything else, and
I mean, it's very impressive.
Well, it's hard, you know, it's hard. It's a lot easier than the old days with the bloopers going downwind than the IOR days, but that's another issue. So bravo Zulu to them. Here's the Sam Haynes there on the right. I don't know the names of the other 2 crew members, but some of you will. If you will, put them in the comments, please. I couldn't find their names, but they had their ceremonial dunking. My little bravo Zulu flags in the upper left corner now. I'm starting to put that in a few of the slides.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Huh? Don't you like that?
Yeah, I do.
And Sam Haynes, after almost quitting the sport, he said in several interviews. What's Phil Walker saying? It looks like, I'm going to go back to that photo. He's saying it almost looks like the front of a 1900 tall ship. Well, not quite. Dave Meager. Hi, Dave. Any thoughts on the winter this year compared to how they react to the time penalty last year? Well, I'm not going to comment. They were, as I just said, they were, except to say they were hugely disappointed with the time penalty, but, you know, they failed to follow the rules. The rules are the rules, and you're supposed to check in. It's a safety rule, check in by radio at certain points. And apparently they didn't, or if they did, it wasn't, you know, there were problems with the antenna and so on, but they've sorted that out. Bravo Zulu to them. Sam Haynes, I'm glad you didn't quit the sport, came back and did it in spades this year.
That's a great picture, too.
Isn't that a nice photo? Here's another one you'll like, Julia. This double-handed class and double-handed sailing in the sport in general seems to be going from strength to strength. These are the winners aboard Mistral, the double-handed winners in the Sydney Hobart. Rupert Henry and Greg O'Shea have sailed Henry's Lombard 34 Mistral to victory in the two-handed division of this year's Rolex Sydney Hobart. The pair also claiming the two-handed ORCI win in the third, that's another rating rule, and third place in the Corinthian IRC division. So the Corinthian meaning amateur or non-professional division. Bravo Zulu to them as well. And I haven't seen a video about them. If I do, maybe we'll play it on Friday's show. And again, if anybody wants to send a link, I would appreciate that. Any links to anything for that matter, not just dirty cartoons that Julia can shake her finger at.
I love their smile. Gosh, that's just as smiley as it can be.
Indeed. And then the final boat came in, and this was a double-handed boat. They actually had to put in somewhere, and when it got really, really rough, but they put in somewhere, managed to refortify their strength and resolve, got back out on the water and finished. They were the last boat in, and bravo Zulu to them.
Unbelievable. Nothing like I've ever had anything connected to that in my whole life.
Overwhelming.
Overwhelming. And, seriously, when you just heard people going, Ka Ro Wong, and it was just unbelievable. I'm really proud of what we've done, actually. That's probably the main thing. And it's like
Two-handed sailing is very challenging, and we really didn't have a lot of time to train and stuff like that, but we certainly got a lot of training in this and just had such fun. The sailing was just brilliant, and the boat behaved so well. It was just magic.
Just so in love with the boat.
Yeah.
And some of the best sailing I've ever enjoyed in my whole life in the last week. So it's been incredible.
And this just finished it off by coming
I know,
in tonight.
it's insane. In the end, we had to do what was right for us and the situation that we were in.
And our biggest challenge was getting the boat here before New Year's Eve, because you wouldn't believe the stops we pulled to get this happening.
Yeah.
I've been saying to Kathy, you've got to do 7 knots. If you don't do 7 knots, it's not good enough.
And I'd say, but I'm going to 8, Bridget. So.
And I said, that's fine, but no less than 7. So we've been working our butts off to get here. Yeah. And it's paid off.
Last boat in, Currawong, I guess is the name. Monica Diaz saying, wow. Fabulous stuff. And here they are. Again, Bravo Zulu to them. That is Kathy Veal on the left and Bridget Canham, co-skippers of that boat. And they were the last in, but double-handed. Obviously 2 ladies, 2 women, and Bravo Zulu to them. What was that comment from Gordon Smith? There was a comment from Gordon Smith up there. He said, when the video was playing, he said, is that Alistair or Andrew Pindar
on the right?
On the right. Now on the left. I think without the hat on, it doesn't look so much like Andrew. But Jay Rendell saying it has been snowing on another topic all day here, White Bear Lake up in Minnesota. I've been working on my Boat Builders of White Bear Lake book. Oh, good. This week I focused on our smallest boat builder, Jerry Spiess. Probably pronounced Spice up there, but in German it'd be Spiess, who sailed his 10-foot boat across the Atlantic. We'll look forward to that book, Jay Rendell. Thank you for that. The 2 ladies are great. Ted Ryman is saying, well done. Monica Diaz said, and well done, Gordon Smith saying, Steve Atkins, wondering the age of that crew. That's a good question. They ought to be in their 60s, though, right?
Yeah.
50s. Maybe the lady on the right's a little younger than the lady on the left, but who would know?
No, and they obviously enjoyed it. I mean, they were just saying best sailing.
Exactly. Heroic effort, Jonathan Frank is saying. Weren't they the oldest crew as well? Now, see, there you go, Julia.
Yeah.
Maybe they were. But Bravo Zulu, Kathy Veal, Bridget Canham, and we'll hope to see them again. Maybe we get them on the show, Julia.
Oh, that'd be fun.
It'd be fun to have them on the show, wouldn't it?
Yes.
They're replying to Jonathan Frank on the shortest. Great stuff. Just one update. Several of you pinged me and asked, since we told you about Ratty, about David Blanchfield, and I haven't talked to him personally, but I'm in regular contact with his partner Katie Pettibone, who lives here in California, a longtime member of St. Francis Yacht Club, longtime friend, as is David. Ratty and I did an America's Cup campaign or 2 together back in
the day.
Well, in the early 2000s, and as you know, he lacerated his leg. A big wave came over the bow. Moneypenny washed him back, and his leg was lacerated badly on either a shroud and a baby stay or something, or the mast, or I'm not sure what.
The pictures are awful.
Pictures are awful. I won't repeat the pictures, but the good news is that Katie has talked to Ratty, and he's willing to do an interview. So we're going to tape an interview sometime tomorrow or Thursday, our time, for airing on Friday's show. So he will be our Friday interview. We have a live guest as well on Friday, I'll tell you about in a minute, but we are going to have some video from he's safe and sound in Sydney. He hasn't been able to get back here to the States yet, but we'll do an interview via Zoom or Skype. And I hope to have Katie on as well, because Katie is a terrific sailor, one of the best sailors, male or female, in this country that's come out of here in a long time, and a lawyer and a very bright gal and longtime friend. So we'll get an interview and we'll air that on Friday's show. Welcome again. We're about an hour in. We are an hour in to show number 580, Tuesday, the 3rd of January, 2023, our first show for the new year. What happened on this day in history? I meant to pull the volume of that slide down. We'll do that next time. In, Julia?
Yes?
1870.
1870.
Water related. Those of you Googling it, you'll see maybe it's water related. And there's when they finally completed it, there were sailboats all around it. It was conceived by a German. What we're talking about, another clue. If you don't know what this is, that's your first and only visual clue. It was conceived by a German engineer in 1852. They talked about it since 1800, and that is the Brooklyn Bridge to connect Brooklyn, what is now a borough of New York City. Brooklyn was then its own entity, city, town, to New York, to Manhattan. And the Brooklyn Bridge, Ted Ryman's got it, Gordon Smith's got it, and Gordon Smith saying, thank you for not showing the picture of Randy again.
Yeah.
At the time, the Brooklyn Bridge was an engineering marvel and the largest suspension bridge ever built, I think both in length and in height. Designed by John A. Roebling, or Roebling, depending upon if you speak German or not, who died in 1869 and whose son took over construction because it started finally in 1870. As construction of the project, it was built between 1870 and 1883. Construction was a prolonged affair due to numerous controversies, as you Brits would say, over the relatively novel design of the bridge and accidents such as damaging fires. The bridge was originally designed to carry horse-in carriages. It has been renovated and expanded several times since its construction. The bridge had a dramatic effect on New York history by connecting the two cities and obviating the need for ferry travel back and forth. Brooklyn eventually merged with New York City formally. I didn't know that. In 1898, it was on this day in history, 3rd of January, 1870, that construction began. It wasn't until May something of 1883, the 24th of May, 1883, that the bridge opened, and they had, this is a lithograph somebody, it's of a painting, obviously, that somebody did. And look at all the sailboats. This is supposed to be quite realistic of how the celebration of that bridge. Have you ever been across that bridge, Julia?
Yes, but I don't remember going across it. I mean, it was at night.
Yeah, I was only on, I've only been across that bridge when I went to New York for the America's Cup Hall of Fame here a few months ago.
Yeah.
Because the traffic was so horrible, the Uber driver, or limo driver said, okay, we're gonna go a different way from JFK into Manhattan. We're gonna go across the Brooklyn Bridge, which you wouldn't do. You normally go over the tunnel or go up and around the Triborough. But either way, the Brooklyn Bridge is celebrated on this day in history, 1870, not long after the Cup, because the first Cup, AC0, because it was then the biggest deal in suspension bridges. David James saying that is very quick compared to the Bay Bridge after the earthquake. Yeah, that's a point. James Frederick Lane, there were problems with the cable steel. Yeah, the Wikipedia. What is the, okay, Stingray wants to go back and ask, some of you will know that is the white, what's the name of that bridge? He's asking, what's the bridge in the background? Several of you will know the, what's the hell's that called? The is that the Whitestone Bridge? Somebody will know. Stingray, I wasn't paying, there it is. The bridges can be remembered as BMW, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and Williamsburg, no Oracle. Or is that the Williamsburg Bridge? Somebody will know. Manhattan Bridge. Okay, Peter Taylor would know. He lives in Manhattan with his beautiful and very smart wife, Sandy, as is Peter, one of our very knowledgeable and worldly foesies. So that's the deal. Thank you. That's the Manhattan Bridge. Construction began, however, on that Brooklyn Bridge on this day in 1870. 13 years to complete. Goodness.
Well,
how long did it take them to do the Golden Gate?
Year and a half or something.
Yeah, it was not.
It was quick.
Well, and of course that was during the Depression too. It was in the 30s, right?
Yeah.
And they had the whole.
Maybe it was 5 years, 1939.
Yeah.
To 37 is when they.
We'll have to Google that.
Yeah.
Take a look. Okay, thank you for that little segment. This day in history. Now the AC segment, our America's Cup 37 Cup date, as many of you will have seen on your news feeds. There's a new challenger, and I ask you whether this challenge is correct or croutonic, because they're getting a hell of a late start. Stingray saying AC-1 was on August 8th, 1870. That's true, the first America's Cup defense. Mm-hmm. Is this challenge correct or Crutonic? And, of course, it is the long rumored, we've been telling you that K-Challenge, I've known Stefan and Bruno both, but Stefan for a long time. And since at least before the 2007, maybe the 2000, as early as the 2000 Cup campaign, well, Stefan and Bruno have teamed up to do K-Challenge. That's after K-Challenge, which was the name of his earlier campaigns. Stefan Candler, of course, is his name. His dad was an affluent, wealthy, some say arms dealer back in the day, made a lot of money. And Gordon Smith is saying, yes, this challenge is correct. Why not? Stingray is saying it's the fruitcake challenge. I don't know about that, Stingray. But they have challenged. They challenged some time ago. It was accepted some time ago by the RNZ, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron, but only announced here yesterday, overnight, in fact. K-Challenge, competition makes you smarter. That's an interesting claim. Mm-hmm. I guess it does. You think that's true, Julia?
Yeah, probably
competition makes you smarter?
Yeah. Meeting the challenge requires smarts.
The organizers of the 36th, the headline from the ACE release, America's Cup events, the organizers of the 37th America's Cup welcome the Société Nautique de Saint-Tropez and their representative team K-Challenge racing as a challenger for the 37th America's Cup in BCN 2024 and led by Stefan Candler and Bruno Dubois. The release went on to say their challenge was previously accepted by the RNZ and they have now chosen to formally announce their entry and confirm they are ready to proceed with their challenge. Less than 2 years before the event. The CEO of K-Challenge Racing, Stefan Candler, said, Bruno and I are very excited to join the other challengers. We've been working behind the scenes for almost a year now, and we are going to announce great things by the end of this month.
Well, I'm excited about that. That'll take a new dimension to the place.
Well, it adds a fifth challenger.
Yeah.
CEO of AC37 Event Limited, and also CEO of Emirates Team New Zealand, speaking of things that aren't necessarily correct. Mm-hmm. And are probably Crutonic. It is great to have the French now back in the America's Cup as the fifth challenger, and one that will no doubt bring a lot of typical character and flair to what is lining up to be a stunning event in Barcelona. Look at the look you just gave me. You didn't say anything about making it more competitive or making it a lot tougher for the challenge.
No.
Typical, what's it say here? Typical character and flair.
Yes.
To what is lining up to be a stunning event. France is such a prominent sailing. It is. Sailing nation, but despite this, it is not a small undertaking to get an America's Cup team up and running. So I congratulate Stefan Bruno and the Société Nautique de Saint-Tropez, who've been working away tirelessly to get to this point.
Well, that's probably
so
true.
There it is. I ask you, now there are 5 challengers. Give me the pros and cons of this team coming in. Would have Mr. Dalton helped get them in? And if so, why? David James is saying Baron Beek brought a lot of flair. He did to the event back in the day when he steered with his white gloves and got lost in the fog off Newport, Rhode Island. And what was that, the 74 Cup? Was that the 77 Cup? I can't remember.
Didn't he have a concrete ship at one point?
No, that was the Russians. They were glass, aluminum and glass, the France boats back in the day. Follow the money, Jody Shields is saying. Yeah, who's paying for this? How much is coming from where and why? I can guarantee you, and I have not talked with any of them, Julia, I can guarantee you that the other challengers are not amused. Why? Mm-hmm. Does it help them with sponsorship, the challengers with sponsorship money? No. Does it help them, the challengers, be more competitive? No. In fact, now this team can't. Look, and I wish them well, and I hope they're great. Believe me. But the chances of them being competitive at this stage of the game is next to nil.
But wouldn't it be exciting if they were? Surprise.
Well, it would be, and you're the optimist, and I am very optimistic. But I know that what's going on here, having been in this same role myself. Yeah. You bring in as many teams and low-key teams as possible. It makes the good teams race against weak teams during the Challenger Selection Series. Waste of time. It helps you as the event organizer, as the defender, because you can bring in more sponsors. You're getting now France involved. You have more television coverage, more television money, more eyeballs on the TV. But I'm telling you what, the challengers, and I haven't talked to any of them, will not be amused. Stingray saying having France in will help create interest in the Barcelona event, which helps ETNZ. Yes, no harm done. They are in it for the long term and at least for the next 2 events. Gordon Smith, if I had a nickel for every team that said that, I could buy you at least a good glass of Danish beer. Never underestimate French sailors. Ted Ryman is saying, okay, you're being polite and correct. That's nice. Graham Sweeney, will Barcelona agree to the extended RR? Yeah, they will. They've already been planning on this team in the scheduling. France will be a walkover. J. Frederick Bland is correct in my opinion. So this event, this team, it's a 5th challenger. It helps the defender way more than it helps the challengers. And I don't blame Mr. Dalton one bit for trying to get them in, helping them find sponsors, whatever, because it helps his event, of which he is co-CEO of the team in the event. Is it good for the sport? Probably not, Jonathan Frank. He's asking that question because it's just, they're going to be a day late and more than a few dollars short. Hopefully, the other problem with teams like this is that you can have damage from teams racing against other teams that are not as experienced, who don't have all the, and maybe they're going to get some sailors that are very experienced with foiling. France, as one of you had pointed out, is a very good foiling nation, offshore foiling nation. The more challengers, the more engagement, the better. John Emmett is saying, okay, yeah, okay. All I'm saying is that it's great for the defender. It's great for the defense. If I were one of the challengers, I would not be amused at this team coming in at a late stage, especially since I would imagine they're being helped out on some capacity by not necessarily just French and other sponsored backers. Any other comments?
Jordy Shields.
What did he say?
Will the French have a fleet of fishing boats to take out the other teams?
Jody, you got to wave your finger at him for that.
I
won't even play. I will play the sound effects. I don't think there will be anything untoward. There's not going to be any cheating. I don't think there's going to be anything like that. Your comments pop up quicker over there on your computer than they do over here on my screen. So that's good, Julia. Stingray saying, an insider told me recently that Kay Challenge still has not put up a penny towards the entry fee or anything else.
The question is, what if
I wonder how that could happen. Stingray? The more the merrier. Julie Aarons is saying, don't underestimate the French. Okay, well, I put it to all of you. Tell me if any of you thinks the French are going to be anything. Any of you want to bet? If you think the French are going to be anything other than at the bottom of the
David James says if France wants to win, they have to be willing to lose on their first challenge.
Yes, that's true. That's a good point. John Lamberts Van Buren, who is a very knowledgeable guy, he's saying when it comes to sponsor funding, no country in the world can beat the French. This will be their stepping stone for the next full blast, full funded, full talented challenge. Yeah, maybe, hopefully. Let's hope it is. Kicking the tires. John Emmett agreeing, saying good, same as an Olympic campaign, good to consider at least 2 cycles. Enough on all that?
Yeah.
If so, let's go to Sir Ben Ainsley, who checks in with a video, 2022 year-end video. Quite a good video. Have a look.
Quick roundup of 2022. It's been a big year in the America's Cup with the announcement as Barcelona for the venue for the Cup in 2024. As a challenger of record, we've worked really well with the defender Team New Zealand to install a raft of new developments, most excitingly the first ever Women's America's Cup. We've reinstalled the Youth America's Cup and we've also brought back Cyclors. First time we saw those in the Cup was 2017. They're now back in a very big way for 2024. In our team, Ineos Britannia, we've continued to develop our operations with Mercedes Formula One in Brackley from a management and design perspective, alongside shifting the sailing operations down here to Palma and getting operation with T6, which is our testing platform, through to designing and building the eventual race boat for the America's Cup. We've also developed and launched the Athena Pathway program led by Hannah Mills. That's our program to really bring the youth and women through to 2024 America's Cup and beyond. So it's been an incredibly exciting year. Thanks so much for all the support, and we're looking forward to a great 2023.
Stingray says they haven't done a lot of sailing. But we'll see now if they will come good here in the next couple, 3 months. They're training, of course, down in warm weather, reasonably warm weather down in Palma de Mallorca. Right. So hopefully they will have more sailing time. I'm looking at video here on my news feed about this football game last night. Those of you in the States or anybody who follows American football, we had a tragic tragic development last night. The two of the top teams were playing, and there was just kind of what looked like a routine tackle of after a pass reception, and the guy who was doing the tackling, they collided. But football is a violent game; it's a collision sport, and collided, and he stood up and then fell backwards. And I was watching the game live, kind of out of preparing the show and watching it out of one eye over here on the monitor. Mm. And he just fell backwards, and then you could see the reaction from everybody. They started doing CPR on it because he had a MI. He had a myocarditis. He had a heart attack.
Yeah. So
they started doing CPR. Apparently, we're able to start his heart again. It was a long time. It was like 15 minutes of CPR, and the team all gathered around. You couldn't really see what was going on. The TV left them alone. They finally backed the ambulance on, took him to a very fine hospital in Cincinnati. And the guy is today in critical but stable condition, or so the reports are. And you wonder, look, a lot of you have contacted me that know it and see it. And I had a very troubling discussion over the weekend with a senior serious sailor who is the chairman of the board of one or two companies that are in the biomedical field. I'm not going to name him or her. A guy I've known for a long, long time. And he said that it's not the mRNA vaccine, and he's in the insurance business now, in the medical insurance business.
Right.
And he said there's some information that they are not privy, that the public is not yet privy to, but they are, and they're all wringing their hands in the medical and insurance field, because it's not that the vaxes are causing the problem with inflammation. That some of them may be as well, but COVID itself. That he says that the chances of having an MI, a heart attack, after getting COVID, and he said this data is coming out, you're going to see it, and it's going to shock the hell out of all of us. He said the chances of having a heart attack after COVID are something like 8 times higher than if you've not had COVID. And there's stuff about all sorts of other diseases, because apparently the COVID it causes inflammation in different organs and systems. I don't want to alarm anybody, but I'm going to go get a full heart cardiovascular check. My good friend John Sangmeister has been telling me to do this for a long time.
Right.
I hope this football player, who's 24 years old, at the peak of youth and fitness, and he has a heart attack on a football field. It's never happened before that we know of, except with somebody who's had.
It's happened to a lot.
I'm talking about football player, but unless it's happened, unless they've had some kind of congenital heart problem. And maybe this guy did. But John Emmett is saying, yes, you want to avoid COVID at all cost. Julia, you were going to say about it happening.
And I think there's a whole, Europe is more aware of heart problems with athletes. With athletes and high school.
The soccer players. And
high school and college age athletes.
Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I don't want to be a fearmonger, but John Emmett saying he started taking vitamin D3 and K2 high dose in 2020 for this exact reason. I've, as you know, on the advice of our good doctor, Andrew McIrvin, and others, have been taking D3 daily since forever now. And I've gotten COVID, but I'm going to go have my cardiovascular whole thing checked, because this is disturbing. I hope it's not true. Graham Sweeney saying, I had a heart attack 2 years ago after the vaccine, caused fluid around my heart.
Mm-hmm.
John Emmett's had 4 vaccines. I don't want to make this sailing or Vaccine Illustrated or COVID Illustrated today, but we will get McIrvin back on here. We keep saying that. He says he will come on. And this is disturbing because of this news report of this guy collapsing on the field.
And the fact that 15 million people saw it happen.
Well, that too. And hopefully it's not related to COVID.
Hopefully
it's not related to the vaccine, but there are increasing number of disturbing reports, and I just leave that with all of you because we have talked about this at length. It is affecting all of us, affecting our sport and so on. Talking about affecting our sport, here's a blast from the past. Remember this guy, Julia?
I couldn't believe it when I saw that.
I sent you the link this morning. Former World Sailing President Kim Anderson is who that is. And the headline today in Inside the Games, the website, the authoritative website, is that the IOC Vice President, Eng Sermiang, whom we'll show you in a moment, is accused of lack of integrity after being found guilty of interfering in the World Sailing election of a couple of years ago. And the rest of the story is this. International Olympic Committee, IOC Vice President Eng Sermiang, who's from Singapore and a longtime friend of mine, or at least acquaintance, has been found guilty of failing to act with integrity and interfering in a bitter World Sailing election in 2020, which saw Denmark's Kim Andersen narrowly defeated by China's Kwan Hai Lee, the current president. An independent panel chaired by London-based lawyer and former Premier League footballer Gareth Farrelly ruled after more than 2 years of dealing with the case that Sermiang and a lawyer called Dieter Neupert, whom I've also known forever, both members of the World Sailing Ethics Commission, Dieter's from Switzerland, were guilty of the charges leveled at them by Andersen, and the charges were conflict of interest. So there is Herr Neupert, Dieter Neupert on the left, and Eng Sermiang on the right, accused and now convicted, at least by this initial panel, probably be appealed, although the penalty was so minor, it's almost like a slap on the wrist. The article goes on to say, that is InsideTheGames.biz, Sermiang and Neupert, a Swiss lawyer who was the acting chairman of the World Sailing Ethics Commission at the time, have both been handed an official warning and fined €1,000 each. Andersen had alleged Sermiang of actively trying to oust him from his position, and that he was supported by Neupert, claiming the pair had committed, quote, gross violations, unquote, of World Sailing's ethics code. The Singaporean, a former sailor, had allegedly emailed, and a former vice president of World Sailing, by the way, when it was ISAF, had allegedly emailed a member of the World Sailing Election Commission, which quoted IOC Chief Ethics and Compliance Officer I don't know how to say that name, Pacquaretta, Gerard Zappelli, and warned allegations against incumbent Andersen and another candidate, Scott Perry, could damage the organization's reputation if they were elected. Now, during the election, a series of ethics allegations were made against Andersen, there on the left, including his role in the Finn class being eliminated from the Olympic program after London 2012, and that, remember this, he abused the signatures of World Sailing Vice Presidents Perry and Gary Jobson, and that he had broken the rules by signing an unauthorized deal with a consultancy company. Now, Julia, do you remember that whole signature fandango? And of course, that was a letter that he sent to me. Had the office Andersen had the office send to me over the signatures of then Vice President Scott Perry and Vice President Gary Jobson.
And then you called him.
And I called those guys and said, hey, what's this letter? You saying that I used on this show misinformation about what was going on. And of course, they had never sent the letter. He had told the staff to take their signatures off other documents and cut and paste them onto the letter that was then sent to me, because it was what I was, and no one had ever even seen what we'd said on the show, which of course was completely true. And afterwards they sent a letter of apology and yada yada. And I've forgotten about it basically.
I had too, but I couldn't, when I read that this morning, I just couldn't believe it.
There it is. Duncan McKay writing in InsideTheGames.biz. This, I assume it will be appealed. It's looking to me, Julia, as it did to you, like maybe maybe somebody trying to stop Eng Soo-myung, who's an the senior IOC vice president, from moving up to succeed Thomas Bach, who's the current president, the German Herr Bach, who's the current president.
It's a political aside, which
we'll see.
Look at ink, though.
There's a lot of comments here. I'm going to start with the last comment. We're replying to Tom Pace. It's the same with many federations like soccer, cycling, and tennis. They say he has scales below the waist. WHT. What does that mean, Tom Pace? What? WHT. What is it about our sports governance that can't seem to get out of their own way? Yeah, it's a good point. He looks like a Wookiee. I think they're talking about Dieter Neupert there in the middle.
Yeah.
Herr Neupert. Herr Neupert was also involved in the Panama Papers. He's very closely connected to some Russian oligarchs, allegedly. Fog Machine saying, "Oh, corruption in an Olympic sport. I'm shocked. John Emmett says, so far, Kwan Hai Lee, the current president of the Chinese, has done a good job with more to come. Good, I hope so. Ted Ryman saying, oh, no, not the resurfacing of Mr. Kim. I just took another swig of scotch. Remember, you guys were having drinking games back in the day whenever I'd bring up the befuddled president. He was a terrible president. God riddance. I'm glad he did not get reelected. But Gordon Smith says he recuses himself at this point in the proceeding. Okay, we'll keep you posted on this as that was reported today. Thank you to one of our folks who sent the link to me this morning. Happy New Year to Kim Anderson.
Yes.
And to everybody. The World Sailing's been very quiet.
Yes.
I think most people think, Julia, that not only Kwan Hai Lee is doing okay, but I think the reason people think Kwan Hai Lee is doing well is because the Secretary General, or the CEO as he's now called, David Graham, the Brit, is doing a good job running the office and running he's chief of staff. He's really running the place. And I think writing Kwan Hai Lee's speeches and so on.
Right. Well, that's good.
It is good. Okay, let's see if there's any other comments. I really don't want to get into that now because I do think we're going to hear more. There's going to be some appeals. And Jody Shields saying, are you trying to tell me there's corruption? The same comment. The highest level of world sport, FIFA wouldn't do this. I don't know. We'll check in with some of our friends like Paul Henderson and Gerardo Seeliger and a few others to see what they think. And Luca Devoti. Is today Luca Devoti's 60th birthday? Somebody said.
Yeah.
As I said, I texted with him this morning briefly, and he didn't say anything. But Kevin James Swallow is on. We got Ian Guarnaria. Did I pronounce that right? Guarnaria. And some other new names. Nice to see you all on here.
Indeed.
And welcome to our show. We're into the D block now, or almost. We got just one last thing here I want to cover, and this is our guest on Friday's show. This is our good friend in FOSI, John Schaefer, who helped us with the live, the watch party with the Rolex Sydney Hobart, and he came on again during when we had trouble getting him connected, but he did. He went up to the Yacht Club and came on here a couple shows ago when we were covering kind of the early after glow of the Sydney Hobart. John's going to he's running a thing now called the Ministry of Sailing. One of the things they've done is to show, at least in theory, if not in practice, that when a crew overboard, man overboard, COB, crew overboard, I think is what he's calling it, U.S. Sailing and others are calling it, a cob goes overboard, not a mob, crew overboard, that in many circumstances, the best way to get them back aboard is to send out a swimmer, a rescue swimmer, a sailing rescue swimmer, as they call it. And here's a video they just put out this morning, and John's going to come on the show on Friday and talk more about this. Have a look.
Recently, the Coast Guard and other governing bodies have been talking about instinctive drowning response. There are 5 signs that are distinct that help identify a person that might be suffering from IDR. The first one is their inability to call for help. The second one is their mouth is below the water. The third one is they cannot wave. The fourth is they can't control their arms. And the fifth one is their body is upright. when a person is suffering from instinctive drowning response, it doesn't necessarily always look the same. As a matter of fact, every person who's in the water experienced some sort of distress never has the exact same symptoms. So it's going to be important to look for the signs that are leading to the IDR response, because in IDR, it might last only 30 to 40 seconds, which means you only have 30 to 40 seconds to respond to a person suffering with IDR. Their head is going to be low in the water with their mouth very, very level to the water, almost like the water's at this level and that's all you see. Their arms might be outright in the water, directly like this, all right, directly horizontal to the water. Their arms will be directly horizontal out in the water, and their head is going to be tilted back with their mouth open. Their eyes are going to be glassy and unable to focus. And one key sign I want you to remember is it's instinctive for everybody when they come out of the water, if they have hair, to move their hair out of their face and to get hair or water out of their eyes. If the person has water in their eyes and their hair is in their eyes, that is a key sign that they cannot move their arms, which means it's a sign of IDR, because their arms are almost paralyzed out horizontally in this instinctive response to try to stay afloat in the water, and their body will also be vertical, up and down, and they will not be using their legs at all. They will also be almost hyperventilating and gasping for air. You may be looking your friend, your sailor, directly in the face. They may be looking at you, but if they are not responding to commands, if they have no ability to move or make an effort to help themselves, you immediately have to call for an IDR. This person is in trauma. We need to send a swimmer right now. Thus the reason that as soon as you have a crew overboard situation, we start by getting the swimmer ready.
Okay, I had never heard of IDR, and I don't know where I've been, but maybe others of you have. Steve Atkins saying, this is good stuff. Gordon Smith saying, I'm really looking forward to John's presentation. Stingray up in Seattle saying, oh, wow. And IDR, instinctive drowning response, I'm going to Google it and have a look at it this afternoon or tomorrow and Thursday and prep for Friday. But John is coming on. Ken Sabin in Toledo is saying, John Schaefer is so right on with this. I know, K-N-O-W, I think he meant, I know firsthand. So instinctive drowning response. And of course, if the old, the former, the current maybe, approach to getting crew overboard back on is to sail past them and throw them a ring and assume that they're able to do all this stuff. And Julia, if they're not able to do all this stuff, yes, if they've got this IDR, instinctive drowning response, which apparently our Coast Guard and probably others are talking about, and then this reemphasizes the position that John, Ministry of Sailing, his group have been saying, is that we really need to move toward swimming, what they call sailing rescue swimmer. They're trying to, I think, separate that from the Coast Guard rescue swimmer, which is a whole famously cool thing that our Coast Guard does for, people rescuing people off boats that have capsized in 50-foot waves in cold water and so on. Sailing rescue swimmer, and we'll find out from John more about IDR and the sailing rescue swimmer when he comes on live on the show on Friday.
It's an incredibly precise and understandable array, and it's hard not to think about it.
Indeed. So there's some experts on here probably that know way more about this. As I said, until I heard this video this morning, was watching it. In fact, I called him up and said, hey, I just saw this video on YouTube. Why don't you come on sooner than later and explain this? Julie Ahrens is saying IDR has had a number of different names. Rescue swimmer should be immediate. Yes, that's his point, Julie. Thanks for that. David James wondering if this could explain Larry Klein, the great Larry Klein, who died here in San Francisco Bay. Very fit guy, minimal body weight, one of the most fit guy, a longtime friend of mine, grew up in the Great Lakes, grew up in Detroit, sailed against him as a kid. He grew up in Detroit sailing against us. We were all And our wives are good friends. His kid and our kid were born about the same time, yada, yada. So that was a great loss when Larry Klein died. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that's our guest, is John Schaefer. Captain Jack will be our guest on Friday talking about this, what is obviously an important topic.
And it is incredibly serious and understandable and not mysterious, so that it should be broadcast.
I mean, it's news to me.
Yeah.
Phil Walker is saying, it is a clever presentation and completely right, but it isn't obvious that if a crew can't help themselves, they need a person. Yeah, this is always the problem, Phil, is that are you just putting another person at risk by putting a swimmer? But obviously it's got to be somebody trained. They have to have the right equipment, yada, yada, before you put a sailing rescue swimmer overboard. John, I'm sure will tell us about all that. Captain Jack, respect. Stingray is saying, Jonathan Frank, this is so good, needs to be implemented in all basic and recurrent sailing courses. Yeah, well, again, we'll have John on, Captain Jack on Friday as our guest, and we'll go into this at some length. Those of you here in the States, I'm watching the news. They've had 3 votes in our House of Representatives for the Speaker. Mm-hmm. And the guy who was running, the guy from California is running, this guy McCarthy, has lost all 3 ballots. So they have adjourned for the night. They have adjourned for the night, Julia.
Oh, gosh. We don't need that.
We don't need that. Okay, Captain Jack, we're looking forward to that. Thank you for agreeing. One last video before we get into the D block. And I like this a lot. This is from SailGP. And bravo Zulu to them. They've been, and I actually had a nice note from Russell Coots. Just to back and forth, I always send him a note at New Year's and 1 or 2 holidays, and got a nice note back. And bravo Zulu to SailGP on these videos. This just came out. It's what they call their 2022 yearbook. Mm-hmm. And I love the way, and this has always been a theme of Russell's. And he always said to me when I was working for him with him, push the sailors. Don't push the judges and the race committee and that kind of stuff. Keep pushing out the sailors and the names of the sailors. Make them personalities, make them heroes. And of course, he's right. But you also have to push the owners, and because the America's Cup is multifaceted.
Right.
But have a look at this video and what SailGP has done with what they call their class of 2022 yearbook. I think you'll really enjoy it.
These kind of questions.
That's a bit harsh, isn't it?
That's a good question.
This could backfire.
The best hair.
Oh, jeez.
Definitely not Nathan
Outridge.
I feel like I should just go with Jimmy. There's barely any there.
Not me.
I'll go Pete Burling.
Well, I've got quite good hair. I'm happy with my hairs.
I'm gonna go with Seb.
Nikolai.
I'll give it to Seb. Quentin is not too bad, no?
Nathan.
Nikolai.
Geordie.
Oh, most improved.
Most improved.
The French. So Quentin.
France.
The Danish team.
Most improved over the year. Definitely France, Quentin.
Quentin.
I think the Danish team is probably the most improved.
I think Quentin, the French.
I guess Phil's been really impressive this year on the Canadian team, so I'll give it to him.
Quentin.
This Jim Junkie is...
Ooh, Jim Junkie.
Jimmy.
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 Jimmy. I always see Jimmy in the gym.
Jimmy Spittle. Definitely Jimmy Spithill. He can't go a day without working out.
Jimmy Spithill.
Best dress?
Jeez, we're all pretty shabby, to be honest.
Are any of them best dressed? Sailor's not known for a day.
Best dressed, it's got to be Ben Ainsley. Probably the only driver that rocks up in a suit to different events.
Ben. He's always coming with his shirt now.
Jimmy Spithill.
Ben.
Probably Ben.
Tom Slingsby.
Probably Jimmy or...
Ben.
Nikolai, he's Danish.
I reckon Ben Ainsley.
Is that even a question?
I think this one's pretty obvious.
Tom.
Tom.
I think that goes to our own captain, Tom Slingsby. Tom Slingsby, definitely.
I am the most likely to swear on the radio by far.
Probably Tom.
Slingsby? Tom.
Tom all the way.
I have to turn the mics up so you can hear Julia's.
Ooh, I like that.
I think Tom would be the best at doing that.
Tom.
Phil? Myself?
I think Pete Burling.
Phil Robertson.
I reckon Jimmy.
Reality TV, I would go for Tom.
Oh, a memoir.
A memoir.
I mean, I'd like to read Jimmy's memoir, I reckon.
Ben Ainsley. I mean, he's a god in the UK, I think.
Jimmy Spithill.
A memoir. Tom.
Ben Ainsley.
Maybe Jimmy. Done a lot of things.
Ben.
Jimmy? Jimmy maybe. Yeah, Jimmy Spithill, yeah.
Just drivers?
Ooh.
Pete Burling.
Phil.
Pete, no question.
Ben.
From what I hear, I just watched the latest Racing on the Edge, and it looks like Geordie Jamar. He seems to do a lot of study and always trying to improve.
Peter Burling?
Jordi.
Probably Nikolai again.
Now, is that cool or what?
Yes, it was wonderful.
Did you enjoy that?
Yes.
I mean, bravo Zulu to them, right?
Yes.
How fabulous is that? SailGP, Russell, everybody involved. I just think you're going from strength to strength, especially here on the PR and the promotion between.
Right.
Well, but they're not. They're in a season. They're not between seasons. They're waiting to go sail where in Christchurch. No, Singapore next. Then is it Christchurch? Then back here in San Francisco, or is it Sydney then San Francisco? I can't remember.
I have.
Greg Phillips agrees that was Hi, Greg. Haven't heard from you in a while. That was fantastic. That was fun. Gordon Smith said Ben already has a great book. Emmett is saying, biggest geek. Yeah, I didn't quite know what that one was. I want to read Spithill's book someday. I have interviews with Quentin quite a bit. John Emmett is saying, and Julie Aaron's back on the rescue swimming, and yeah, she's quite high on it. So we will talk about that. That is the only entertaining thing SailGP has done so far, David James, who's not a big fan of SailGP. Singapore is the weekend. Yeah, I think it's the 13th, 14th, or 14th, 15th Stingray in January. So it's coming up here in a couple of weeks. Tom swearing the most, LOL. Yeah, he is. Having done a cup with him, he is, or two maybe. Oh, hell, did I miss most of the show? Hello, Andrew Pindar. Yeah, we did. We've talked about you a couple times. In fact, Andrew, if you go back, somebody thought you looked like one of the double-handed crew that finished last. Two ladies, in fact, finished last, but spirited and strong and great. So it was not an insult by any means. Mm-hmm. Gordon Smith, can I just say that Stingray and I have been boosting SailGP from back in the day, but glad that Tom Eamon is catching up.
Okay.
I've always been a fan of SailGP. I just didn't, let's see how it goes. I think they've come a long way, improved. The boats are better. The whole program is better. The racing is better. Mm-hmm. That's our SailGP update for today, and I bravo Zulu to them for that video. My never so humble opinion gets us to the D block. We won't even watch our Gentleman Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Speaking of New Year's, Julia, do you have New Year's resolutions?
Oh, yes, I'm going to walk with grace.
New Year's goal, really. It's not a resolution. It's a goal.
Yeah.
Of getting up and being able to walk, being able to stand and walk with strength and grace.
Yes.
Good. I hope so.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, you're doing well since you came out of the convalescent with your broken foot. We can't push your foot out in front of the table. Maybe you see your foot with I can sort of see it down there at the bottom of your that thing, that broken foot shoe that you're still wearing. Yeah. Does it hurt? Is it okay?
No, my knee hurts.
But you're protecting the foot with that thing to keep
to
keep it from re-breaking. Okay, well, keep at it. Well, here is. The doctor asked me to spend at least 1 hour per day on the treadmill.
Oh, I love that. That's me.
A New Year's resolution. Thanks. That came from Mary Jude.
That's great.
Samansky in Philadelphia. I like that a lot.
Yes.
And I just, if any of the rest of you have resolutions or goals for 2023, let us know here in the waning minutes of this show. Here's another one. This came, I think, I'm not sure who sent this. Did Ryman send this? Somebody sent this. I didn't put the thank you little blurb in the upper left-hand corner. I've seen it before. It's an oldie but good. Oh, yes, I did. It is from Ryman. Well, you know what that is, Julia?
It's a trying to copy the Beatles rock.
It's copying the Beatles and the famous cover album. What was the name of the album?
I don't know.
Abbey Road. That is Abbey Road, which is, by the way, where their studios were located. Maybe still are.
Mm-hmm.
Abbey Road Studios. So you've got 4 VW Beatles crossing on the crosswalk at Abbey Road. John Emmett's got it. Pindar's got it. Gordon Smith says, ha ha. Ryman did send that. Thank you, Ted. And I actually have credit for you here in the slides.
Yeah.
And I've seen similar. I don't know if I've actually seen that one before, but it's terrific. Beatles on Abbey Road, Gordon Smith said.
Yeah. I've not seen that.
That gets us to the finish line, and I'm still using this nice shot from 2018, the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race finish, when Waxy won the race in the broad daylight hours. And just to say that here at the finish line, I do want to mention that this event called the Ocean Race starts on the 15th, so just in 2 weeks' time, less than. Fleets are assembling. This was the headline yesterday on their website in a little report that came out. Fleets assembling in Alicante for the final run towards the start of the Ocean Race. The village, you can see there, opens, I think, on the 7th. The start is on Saturday the 15th. There are only 5 IMOCAs and 6 VO65s, and then the VO65s are not racing around the world. They're racing in 4 different sprint legs. They're going to race from Alicante down to Cape Verde. And then they're going to go back to Europe and then race in short sprint legs in the European finale, the latter stages of the event. And the 5 IMOCAs are going to go around the world. And you got to wonder if these crude IMOCAs, they're going fast and they got foils, and if they hit something, who knows? Sunday. Sorry, it's not Saturday. Thank you, Andrew. It's Sunday the 15th. Andrew, are you going to be there? Ted Ryman, it's going to be a great race. Ted Ryman, yep, he's always the optimist. I hope it is. John Emmett replying to Jody Shields. I understood you perfectly, Jody. I don't know, there's some back and forth. Jody Shields, my New Year's resolution, okay. My New Year's is to drink more, exercise, and go to the beer more. Also, I need to work on dyslexia. Oh, dear. I'm a big systems person. My goals are always to improve my systems, personal systems for doing the show, systems for producing the show, making it more efficient, making it easier, quicker to do, and so on.
You have lots of fans for doing what you've done already.
Well, I know, but for my personal, thank you for that, Julia, but for personally, I'm just trying to make myself personally more efficient and systematic, not systemic, systematic, I think. Is that the right word?
That's all right.
Anybody else have a goal or a mission or a... And Pindar, Andrew is saying he's going to be there from the start of next week with a really good crowd. Good. Well, maybe we can get Andrew, like he checked in, Julia, for us from Foiling Week.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get him to check in from Alicante. Andrew, would you come on live and do that for us, please? We'd really appreciate that if you could, if you would. Again, we've got Captain Jack Schaefer on this Friday, and we've got, what day is, let me check here. Next week, next Friday, a week from today, we have Hamish Ross and Brian Willis coming on, talking about sportsmanship in the sport. And by the way, one hears there is a major sportsmanship question event that's come out of St. Francis Yacht Club and the Big Boat Series.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I've checked around and I'm going to save it for the show when bring it up to as a, hey, what would you do in this situation? Right. But there was a bad situation during the big boat series here that's not been reported.
No, I was going to say, I don't know.
But as
that.
usual, we hear about these things here on Sailing Illustrated.
Yes.
And it's now a matter before it's been reported as a Rule 69. It's gone to U.S. sailing. And so we'll talk about that.
Speaking of Rule 69, has Magnus disappeared?
Magnus the Magnificent, I haven't heard from him, but I'm sure he's writing. I think they've all just taken a break over the holidays, and he'll be writing more for America's Cup events. America's Cup events.
Haven't heard his name for.
I did hear from him. We texted once or twice over the holidays, so I did. He's been skiing with his family in France.
Oh, that's good.
I think in France, the Swiss Alps, French Alps, one or the other. Anyway, we'll cover the ocean race. Maybe we'll get Andrew to come on when he is in Alicante and give us a report, either recorded or live, up close and personal, as that race is starting on the 15th. And I have Saturday, it's wrong on that graphic. It's Sunday, the 15th. Julia, your witness?
Yes. No time like the present to like, follow, and share.
Indeed, and if you're watching in replay, we accept, unlike most shows, we don't turn the comments off once we go off the air. They're on because people are so respectful, so polite, and so actually enlightening with their comments. We rarely have a problem with somebody doing something croutonic. If you would please join us as a patron via Patreon, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated. Give us a few bucks a month, help keep us on the air. We appreciate that very much, as we also appreciate those that give us video and images and audio. Let us use theirs for these shows. And that's today's thank you credit list. Julia, final thoughts?
I'm looking forward to improving life in this next year.
Well, let's just, shall we say, get through the next 2 days of flood.
Yes.
And hopefully our friend Mark Michelson, who told us at the top of the show, yes, it's going to be a storm, but it's not going to be epic. It's not going to, we're not going to have to get the ark out and put them on 2x2.
Or the dinghy.
Or your dinghy. I didn't realize that was a wooden dinghy.
Well, of course. You have to have a reputable dinghy.
Well, is wood dinghy reputable? It's been up in the rafters of the Beach Street Yacht Club garage for how long?
30 years.
At least. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Julia. Thanks to all of you with the great comments. If we don't get washed away here in the next couple of days on our internet and elect powers. I mean, that was a big problem here in this last storm. It knocked a lot of power and internet out for a lot of people in not just the Bay Area, but in the great area.
Yes.
Usually it's pretty reliable here, though, in San Francisco.
Yes, that's why we have generators.
Well, we don't have a generator here at the Beach Street Yacht Club.
I know.
You do up at your place in Calistoga.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Hope to see you on Friday. And if you can, in the meantime, go sailing. What a novel idea. And if you do, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.